Idle Child here. Today we're going to use the Super Metroid Practice ROM to learn how to short charge a shinespark. Now, if you're speedrunning Super Metroid and you haven't heard of the Practice ROM, I highly recommend it. I'm using the 2.x version put together by the community. People like Total, Insane Firebat, Chavo, I'm sure there are others that helped out that deserves credit. This Practice ROM, a modification of the original game, is pretty useful feature. Got several features in it. So for example, if we look at my screen top left corner, I've got that purple controller there, the input viewer. I don't actually have it working right now. You can see I'm moving around and nothing's happening on it. However, in the Practice ROM, in the upper left corner of the Metroid screen where you normally have those energy tank indicators, we've got an empty space, and you can see the arrow button presses are showing up there. And all the different letters and controller inputs. So we don't need my input viewer. We got the Practice ROM to help us out with that. We still have the health number there. That's the 1499, so I've got full health right now. And then we've got another number that we can have some control over. So right now I have it set over to the X position. So for learning a short charge, probably want it to be a little bit more useful. So let's put it on the dash option. Alright, so now I got this dash counter here. So you could think of Samus like a 5-speed bike. She's got gears 0 through 4. If I just start moving around without holding the dash button at all, you can see we're not going very fast. We're just stuck in 0 gear. If I start holding the dash button, she goes a little bit faster. So now she's in 2nd gear. I let go of the dash button. She just stays in 2nd gear. I keep moving. Not going fast enough to go through these blocks. So that's where I kind of think of her as having these gears that she can get into. And then if you just hold dash down long enough so she get the 4th gear, then you get the blue speed and you can pull to the box. And you can also do a charge up a shinespark, like then you get in that flash state that's in there. So I'll just talk about that briefly. So once you get, then you can do that. So you can shoot off in the air. So once you get the blue echoes, you get in the 4th gear. If you push down, that charges the spark. And then if you just jump, like if you just stop and jump, you'll just shoot straight up, which isn't useful very often. So there's actually ways to do it horizontally, like this. So what I did there is I pushed jump, but then I also pushed forward, the direction I wanted to go. You can do a diagonal one. Push jump and the shoulder button right afterwards, or up and right. And you can also do it in the midair. However, I mentioned that if you just stop and hit jump, instead of doing a straight up jump in the air, she'll just do the shinespark. So to do a midair one, you need to make sure you're moving so that you do a spin jump. And of course remember to actually do the spark, but you know. Let's try that again. Like that. And that one's pretty easy with the shoulder button. You just hit the shoulder button and jump. If you want to do a horizontal one, you need to, while you're in the air, push up, then push jump and right, or jump and left, whichever direction you want to go. So kind of some quick inputs there, pushing the up and then quickly jump right. Okay, so that's why we call it charging a shinespark. So now let's talk about why we call it short charging a shinespark. So let's talk about what happens when we're holding dash down. There's two things going on. First off, Samus is accelerating, and secondly, she has a chance to change gears. You go up to 4th gear. And rather than the game saying, well, you held dash for a 1/4 second or 15 frames or some amount of time, okay, we'll go ahead and go up a gear shift. For a 16-bit game, keeping it simple, rather than checking for how many frames you've held it, they only check on specific frames. So just at some point during Samus's running animation, they say, hey, let's check the dash button, and if it's held, we'll put you in the next gear. And because of that, if we only hold dash at those times, and the other times we keep moving forward but we let go of dash, we're going to accelerate a lot less. but we're still going to be able to get the fourth gear. So let's go see what that looks like. I start over here. And so here's a normal charge. So I get to about here. I have it charged. And here's a short charge. So a lot shorter distance we were able to do with that one. So that's why we call it a short charge. With needing a lot less space, we can use it in a lot more rooms. All right. So now, how do we, in order to actually learn how to do a short charge, because the dash counter only really tells you what gear you're in. Let's turn on this feature, the Magic Pants feature. So what this does is when I'm moving around, now we can see Samus is flashing. So I mentioned there's a specific frame the game's checking for. See if you're holding dash. At the dash is this flash is your visual cue on that is. And you can see it's kind of a periodic flash. If I go up to the next gear, that's still the same periodic rate. However, if I go up to the second gear, it's a little bit faster. I think it's 20 frames in between instead of 25. With this game being 60 frames per second. And then if we get up to the third gear, it's even faster. It's only 15 frames apart. So if you've heard of people talking about a 2-tap charge versus 3-tap charge, the optimal would be a 3-tap charge where you tap dash to go to first gear, tap to go to second, tap to go to third, and then you hold at the end to get to the fourth gear. So that'd be a 3-tap charge. 2-tap charge, you're going to tap to get a first, tap to go to second, and then when you go to the third, you just hold dash down for both 3 and 4. It's going to be a little bit less optimal. You're going to travel a little further, but it's a little bit easier to pull off, particularly if you're a little bit off on your timing in those first or second presses. By the time you get to the third press, you might just miss it. So the 2-tap charge it's easier to pick up, and there are several rooms where you don't really need a 3-tap charge. However, if you learn the 3-tap charge, then you've got a little more flexibility, a little more leeway. So I'd recommend trying to learn the 3-tap charge if you can. So, okay, we've got this flashy thing. We can try to learn to press on the flashes. Is there anything better we can do? Now I'm going to demo the new feature that I just added. I'm going to go back to the info HUD here. We're going to turn on the Shine Tune. It's like fine-tuning your short charge to shinespark. Where I got that name from. Oh, let's turn this back on. Save this. Okay. So with the X position and the dash counter, we were only seeing one number show up. The Shine Tune, we're going to see a bunch of numbers show up here. So let me just try to do a short charge here. There we go. That was decent. And we actually have a bunch of different numbers that show up. So I mentioned that we only need to hold dash on certain frames, but we're human. We're going to hold dash more than we need to, and that's fine. These numbers are telling us all the different frames, all of the extra frames that we held dash. So that first number there, 412, that's actually two numbers. It's a 4 and a 12. So I pushed the dash button 4 frames early on my first tap, and I held it 12 frames late, so I held it pretty long. Second press is a little bit better, 4 frames early, 7 frames late. Third press, so we skip over the missiles, super missiles, power bombs. We get to the third set of numbers. Got a 1 and a 6 for the third tap. And then the last one, I pushed 1 frame early on the fourth press. And then that last number, that's when I pushed the down button to actually charge the shinespark. I don't really have to let go of dash there, but I do need to push down so I can charge the shinespark. So of course, if you were to hit a wall before you charge the shinespark, then you're not going to get it. So we can use this to evaluate how well I did. And those ones there, those aren't actually that good. Certainly from a computer's perspective, a task, tool-assisted speedrun would just have all zeros. It would just be frame perfect everywhere. But when I see a 1 and a 6 there, I pushed the button late. I got the short charge, but it was late. And then I was late again on the next press. So, if I were practicing and I got the short charge, I thought, oh, great, I did great. In reality, I'm pretty close to missing it. That's going to be where you start getting into runs. You start your timing changes just a bit. You're going to start missing it. So this tool certainly could be used to drive these numbers down to like 2 or 3, but really, even if they're just 4s and 5s and 6s, I mean, 4s or 5, as long as it's consistent, getting this thing consistent is the most important. So if they're all 4s, that's great. I'd be very happy if all these numbers were 4s. Just a nice buffer in between each press. I feel like I'm going to get it consistently. Let's try again here. Yeah, so that's much better. I'm very happy with that. So what happens if I missed one? Okay, so here I intentionally missed one, and we can see it's only showing me 2 sets of numbers. So I just missed the third press completely, and so that's how we can use this. Even if you miss, whether you miss a short charge or you get it, you can use these numbers as feedback to see how you're doing. Okay, so let's talk about the caveats with these numbers. So first, let's try. Oops, that wasn't. Shouldn't have talked. Okay, so here, I'm actually pretty surprised I got that short charge, but I didn't actually get the short charge. I let go of dash and I didn't push down. I still got a number at the end. So that last number is actually telling us when we go back down from fourth gear back down to 0 gear. You may have noticed that when Samus actually, even if I just hold dash the whole time, when I charge it, see how much slower she got? The game drops Samus down to 0 gear whenever she gets the charge. And then the other thing that happened here, you saw me get the charge, you saw me get the blue echoes and everything, but I don't have all my numbers. So what happened is I dropped back down to 0 gear, and since I'm in 0 gear, the game will let me go back up to first and back up to second. You can actually build another shine spark while you have a shine spark. Like while you have a charge, you can build another charge. So I don't know why the game lets you do that, but it does. And because of that, once you start building the next charge, you're going to see the numbers for that. So you lost your information. So if you're practicing this, you're probably going to want to do where you just, you want to get it. But once you push the down button, you just stop moving and you can evaluate. It looks like I'm pressing a little bit early now. So let's see here. If for some reason you get the first few presses back here, and then you wait a while, and then you throw in like a third or fourth press, you can see how I was pretty late to do that third press. Like I ran like halfway across the screen, and yet my numbers for the third press look really good, 3 and 7. So it's only timing the early and late for that specific frame that you got the press on. I don't think that's that's not normally going to be a big issue that happens, but just something to be aware of if you're doing the testing, or if you're trying this out. Another way you can get the numbers messed up is if you leave the room. Those numbers on the right normally are telling you how many frames, how many seconds, minutes you spent in the room, or things like that. You can look online if you want to see the whole story of what those numbers are supposed to tell you. And whenever you do a door transition to leave the room, the Shine 2 numbers are going to get overwritten by the room counter numbers. So this feature is really designed to be used within a room. Something I haven't actually talked about yet is how to get that first press, how to find out when to get that first press in, because that can be a little tricky. I actually use a stutter, so this would be a good time to talk about stuttering. Normally, when you move like this, just a little bit at a time, you can see how Samus is never flashing. But if you let go of forward and repress it fairly quickly, you just keep doing that, you can get Samus into a stutter, like a stutter motion, and she will go through her animation. You can kind of see how she's not going like she normally would in 0 gear, but we're still getting those flashes. You can do it in the other direction too. It's a little bit, maybe it works the same way this way too. And now there's a lot of different strategies for stutters. I don't know them all. I think you can do a 2-stutter. I think some people do 2 stutters. I don't know if anybody does a 3-stutter. The task can do a 4 or 5 stutter. The task can just be really crazy with it, where it's like 4 frames forward, 1 frame off, 3 frames forward. I mean, it's a craziness where Samus barely even moves, and she's able to get the first tap in. That's a task only thing. Most important thing with a stutter is to just be consistent with it. So what I found is I start moving and then I let go, repress forward. So I do 1 stutter, and then I push dash button fairly quickly after that. And see, I got a 4 with that one, so that's decent. But the most important thing is to be consistent. If you can do a 2-stutter method and it's very consistent for you, and more power to you. Just pick something that's consistent. I do think it's worth learning a stutter. I think there's a difference in having Samus kind of stop her momentum early on. By the way, you can't actually stutter all the way through. So even though the game only checks to gear shift up on certain frames, it's always looking for gear shift down. So if at any time you start running forward, you let go of the forward button. I just start going like this, and see how she just loses a bunch of momentum. Like, it doesn't matter how quickly I repress the forward button. When you let go of the forward button, the game's going to drop you down to 0 speed. That's another reason why when you do the short charge, when you push down, you need to be quick with your down push, or maybe, yeah, push down maybe while you're still moving forward. I think that works too. But you definitely want to be quick with it. You don't want to let go of forward, wait a moment, and then push down. You're probably going to lose the charge at that point. All right, so we talked about stuttering. We talked about... The only thing left to talk about with this feature is the lag factor. So right now I'm practicing a room without lag. Oh, actually, one other thing you can do, once you start getting better at it, I would turn the magic pants off, actually. That's another reason I like this feature is you can kind of get used to doing the shine sparks. And you see, I almost missed that one too. My third press is too early. But still, I'm getting practice without seeing the flashing magic pants. It's a little bit more realistic because it's hard to pay attention to those numbers while you're doing the short charge practice, but it is easy to see the flashing pants and try to sync up with that. So I do recommend using the magic pants to learn short charges, but once you start getting better at it, I would take the magic pants off. So that's a little bit closer to the real experience. Speaking about that real experience, I do recommend learning in a room with no lag in it, like this room. But sometimes you're going to need to use this feature in a room that does have lag. And this room will work in other. This feature will work in other rooms. Just be aware that the Practice ROM 2.x, it's a lot better at mimicking the real life lag, but it's not perfect. Nothing's going to be exactly the same as the real game. So just be aware of that. That's another reason why it's good to have a little bit of buffer on your presses. That one there I got here with the 0. If I were to go to the real game, maybe I'd miss that one. Maybe it's just 1 frame off, and that made the difference. It's just something to be aware of. But you can use this feature in other rooms. Just go ahead and load up Dragon's room here. And I don't think I have anything less to demo, so I'm just going to do a little bit of Dragon practice. It's so weird doing this without the music. I got to turn the music on. There we go. Didn't do it that time. See if I can do it when I need it. Nope. Need to do a little more practice. Almost got that one. Oh well. Yeah. Practice only gets you so far, but it's a good start. Alright, well I think I've had enough here. Thanks for watching.